Humboldt State Normal School opened its doors in March 1914, and Nelson Van Matray served as president for the first decade. Our first graduate, Susie Baker Fountain, described the school's building on the corner of 11th and M Street as irksome. But the school changed locations in January 1916 thanks to a 51-acre donation of land by the Union Water Company. The state provided $91,285 for buildings, equipment, and salaries, and the initial budget was $17,000. While it was free to attend Humboldt, room and board ranged from $20 to $27 per month, and a year of textbooks summed to be $11. How does this compare to the cost of books today? We know that back then, most prices were much lower than today due to inflation. What we want to know is whether the cost of textbooks in 1915 was greater or less after adjusting for inflation than the typical cost of textbooks today. How do we do that? We first choose a price index that shows the average price of a market basket of goods. We then divide the price of textbooks in 1915 by the price index in 1915 to get the real or inflation-adjusted price of textbooks. Our price index in 1915 was 0.0446, which means that $11 spent on textbooks in 1915 is the equivalent of $246 in today's dollars. The College Board estimates that a year's worth of textbooks costs students $1,253 today. So, textbooks really were quite a bit cheaper in 1915, even after adjusting for inflation. The school's early enrollment peaked in 1917 at 159 students and dropped to a low of 59 students in 1920 due to World War I and stricter entrance requirements. But enrollment began to climb after Homer Balavanis arrived at Humboldt in 1923. Homer was Humboldt's first economist and also taught French and sociology. He became known as Mr. Humboldt and was a dedicated faculty member and educator for the next 3 campus presidents. Ralph Sweatman became president of Humboldt State Teachers College in 1924. The school changed its name in 1921 to adequately describe the broader curriculum offered and to attract potential students. The national economy was booming during the Roaring '20s, and the future was bright. California needed teachers as the population increased by over 40% during the 1920s. This increased demand for college, and enrollment rose to 290 students by 1928. Economists know that the market price and quantity sold are set by supply and demand. If demand for a good rises, let's say the demand for college degrees, then the number of students seeking a college degree rises, and a shortage of access will result unless tuition, a key component of the price of attending college, rises. At Humboldt State, tuition continued to be zero until 1929, and so the college rationed access by raising academic standards. It started a grade point average system, the honor roll, and academic probation. Thus, even though tuition did not rise, it was more work to obtain the college degree. Faculty were now required to obtain a master's degree or doctorate and exemplify passion and enthusiasm for education. The lumber industry, always significant to the local economy, was doing well. The Pacific Lumber Company alone employed 1,500, or almost 4% of Humboldt County's 40,000 people. Arthur Gist became the 3rd president of Humboldt State Teacher College in the fall of 1930, which changed its name to Humboldt State College in 1935. During Gist's time as president, enrollments went on a roller coaster ride. The Great Depression was the largest recession the U.S. ever faced, and it had an impact at Humboldt State. The unemployment rate was 25%. The unemployment rate is calculated by dividing the number of people unemployed, those without a job and looking, by the number of people who want to work, which we call the labor force. The labor force is made up of people who are currently employed along with the unemployed. Young people who could not find a job went to college. This increase in demand raised enrollment, and per semester tuition rose $1.50 to $6.50, or $25 to $115 in inflation-adjusted dollars. The country needed soldiers during World War II, and demand for college fell. Enrollment dipped from 430 students in 1939 to 159 students, mostly women, in the fall of 1945. After the war and Great Depression, many people moved to California, and ex-soldiers could pay for college with the GI Bill. Enrollment rose to 650 students in 1946. When President Gist arrived, Humboldt State Teacher College offered 3 credential programs and had 27 faculty and 372 students. When he left 20 years later, there were 31 degree programs, 47 faculty, and 751 students. President Cornelius Siemens began office in 1950, and the campus grew quickly. The first year President Siemens was in office, the budget increased 7.5% for construction and repairs. In 1953, the budget would exceed $1 million, which is $8.5 million in inflation-adjusted dollars. More and more students were attending college due to increases in both supply and demand. On the supply side, the post-war economic expansion led to growing revenue for the state and increased budgets for higher education. The result was increased capacity for students at HSU and a shift in the supply curve. On the demand side, the large baby boomer generation started going to college. California's population was growing, and the Korean War came to an end. More students desired a college degree, and the demand curve shifted. The result was an increase in enrollments, which surpassed 2,000 students in 1960. By the early 1960s, there were 170 full-time faculty members and 20 working part-time. Over 10 dormitories were erected along with Jolly Giant Canyon, Harry Griffith Hall, and another building that eventually became named Siemens Hall, the home of the economics department. By 1973, Humboldt State grew from a mere 57 faculty members, 650 students, and a $500,000 budget to over 500 faculty, 7,000 plus students, and a $16 million budget, which in today's dollars would equal just over $82.6 million. Alistair McCrone became Humboldt State's 5th president in 1974. That same year, the school changed its name to what we now claim as Humboldt State University. The college was now a major employer in the region and a big part of the local economy. Economic professor Theodore Ruprecht analyzed HSU's economic contributions to the county in 1978 and found that the university directly injected about $40 million into the economy each year, representing about 5% of the total annual income of the county.
Ted Ruprecht was, one of those professors that you meet and you think, this is a professor. I mean, he's the kind of guy with the patches on the elbow and the studious nature, and he always kind of had this thing going on. Very personable, very smart, and really knew, you would ask a question and he would, and this is just my recollection of him, but he would process it for a second before he would answer, so he could, I guess in my case, probably dumb it down a little.
Limited state funds for financial and capital growth and fewer college-aged people in the late 70s and 80s meant declining enrollment. This resulted in layoffs of faculty and employees of the university. Enrollments began to slowly rise in the 1990s. Tuition prices continued to increase during this period. In 1993, tuition per semester for a full-time student was $891, which calculated for inflation-adjusted dollars is equivalent to $1,420 today. The Employer Partnership Campaign was founded in 1983 and continues today. The program works with local businesses to help fund the campus. In 1988, it raised $50,000. Attending Humboldt State University provides its graduates with human capital, which is the knowledge that is useful in the workforce. This knowledge, along with experience and better tools and technology, raises worker productivity. In the long run, worker productivity determines a worker's wage. It's always been the case that college graduates earn more than high school graduates. But since President Macron began his presidency, the premium paid to a college graduate has increased. Rollin Richmond was appointed president of the university in 2002. In 2005, the economics department calculated Humboldt State's economic impact on the local economy. HSU is the second largest employer in the county, and 7% of the residents are associated with the university. HSU provides a substantial economic impact, injecting roughly $216 million into the economy. Currently, the university employs 1 in 14 local residents and provides 2,300 jobs. The second half of President Richmond's term was dominated by the bursting housing bubble and the Great Recession. This led to a 42% increase in tuition since the beginning of the Great Recession. Supply and demand can explain why. The supplier capacity for serving students fell as tax dollars dried up. In fiscal year 2009 to 2010, state funding was cut 22% from the previous year, and state allocations decreased on average by 4.5% annually since 2009. Demand for college increased as people found fewer opportunities in the workforce. In 2009, California's unemployment was 10.9%, and Humboldt County was 10.1%. The combined effect of a drop in supply and a rise in demand is an increase in tuition. President Richmond retires in 2014. We cannot say what challenges or opportunities the next president will face, but we are sure that economic factors will be just as important over Humboldt State University's next 100 years.